I'm John Beltz. This is the Teacher Tunnel Podcast.
People will forget what you say, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And the reason why I say that is because me having a disability, people could tune me out easily, but somehow they're fascinated by my story.
Hello, listeners. Thank you for pushing play. This is the Teacher Tunnel Podcast, the show about teachers and leaders from all walks of life. We learn their story and the positive habits that move them forward to becoming their best selves. I am your host, John Beltz, and I have taught middle school English for the past 7 years in Oklahoma. And next year, I will be stepping out of my comfort zone and teaching an enrichment class to middle schoolers. But on today's episode, we have best-selling author, teacher, podcaster, and triathlete. And did I mention she has cerebral palsy? CP for short, but this does not stop her from becoming her best self. She just turned 30 and the sky is the limit for this expert on everything CP. In this episode, we discuss self-publishing a book, the triathlon in Hawaii she attempted, and her podcast, Butterflies of Wisdom, which I was actually a guest on and had a great time. But we start with what cerebral palsy is and the limits it has in her daily life.
Cerebral palsy is a lack of oxygen at birth injury. So you get cerebral palsy from a traumatic birth. Being premature is how I got it. I have a friend who had the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck, and I actually know 2 people that have cerebral palsy that had the umbilical cord wrapped around the neck. So basically what happens is if you are born premature or if you have lack of oxygen to the brain, you can get cerebral palsy. And I have moderate to severe cerebral palsy, even though my brain is highly functioning. I use assistive devices to walk, and that's how I do the majority of my daily life.
So what are some things that it limits in your everyday life? So you have to use, or is it like crutches, or what is it that you use? So what is it that it limits in your everyday life?
We can go in there. I can't get myself dressed. Number one, I can't do that. I can't, because my left hand is so weak, I can't physically get myself dressed. I'm actually opposite sides of the body, which means my left hand is weaker than my right leg. And so I'm actually opposite sides of the body on that one. But I can't walk. I used to be able to walk after I lost that capability 11 years ago in 2006 after scoliosis surgery went horribly wrong and they almost killed me. They gave me propofol and fusion syndrome. For those of you that don't know what propofol and fusion syndrome is, that's what Michael Jackson died of. Michael Jackson of Jackson 5 died of. And he called it his milk. It was given to him by a doctor that wasn't able to give it to him. I am one of the tens of thousands that's actually allergic to propofol, and propofol is a type of anesthesia, so every time I go in for surgery, I proudly say that you guys can't use propofol on me. I make that so clear that the doctors jump back like there's no tomorrow. So, that's how I lost my capability to walk. And so I can feed myself without making a mess. I can talk and I can just function. So what limits me with cerebral palsy is daily tasks like getting dressed and daily tasks like getting up and walking.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. And what is your current full-time profession at the moment?
Oh, where do I start? My current full-time profession is music teacher at a private school in Aspen, Colorado. And so I'm actually making a transition within my job. I'm actually staying in the education field for 3 more years, and then I'll become a freelance writer and a full-time podcaster, so I hope.
Awesome. And so you talked about your podcast, and it is
Yeah.
actually out and available on all podcast
Yeah.
channels.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've just hit your 100th episode, and you just started in April. Talk a little bit about that. And I know that you've had some other podcasts in the past. Talk about what your podcast is about and why you started it.
Well, I started it because I wrote a book at age 23. And I released that book in October 2012. Well, 2 weeks after the book came out, WIN, win, is that book's title, and it can be found on Amazon and Amazon Kindle and Barnes & Noble and iBooks. And so if you guys want to go check that out, you're more than welcome to. But the reason why I started the podcast is because people were asking me, and complete strangers were asking me, how do you do all this stuff while managing cerebral palsy? And I thought, oh boy, they opened up a can of worms that now I have to deal with. Either I close the can of worms or explain it in a way that I feel comfortable with. And then I thought about it. Why not infuse my story with other people's stories as well, solo entrepreneurships and the disabled, to teach people about disabilities and solo entrepreneurship. So that's how my podcast was born.
And is this your first podcast that you've done, or have you done others in the past?
It started out as a YouTube show, and I tried YouTube, but that didn't work. Not because I wasn't up to doing it, not because the guests weren't up to doing it. I literally had a fan tell me, a fashion stylist out of Chicago, named Laura, tell me that I want to listen to your podcast. At the time it was called Winds, Women of Wisdom, and yes, the all kinds of that are still floating around on my website. But she said to me, I can't listen to it while I'm multitasking being driving, doing dishes, all that good stuff. So then I thought, oh boy, here we go. Here goes the end of my YouTube show, and I'm happy she told me that. So in a sense, I listened to my fans and gave them what they wanted.
Awesome. So you wrote a book, and you said it was in 2012. And just to reiterate, it's called I Win, My Journey with Cerebral Palsy in a Non-Disabled World. So first, what did you mean by non-disabled world?
Because my life I adapt to my life. I just figured this out at the age of 30. I adapt to my life. My life isn't handicapped, it's accessible. I barely have curb cuts where I live. People stick curb cuts in and then place stuff on top of it. So I barely have handicapped accessible streets where I live. So I adapt my lifestyle to making my life the best it could be, but at the same time I have cerebral palsy.
So how do you deal with those frustrations? I mean, it sounds like an everyday thing that you have to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, to get to my bedroom, to where I'm doing this interview now, I have to go up a flight of stairs and then down a flight of stairs. So yeah, imagine that and I've been doing that for 30 years. So I just bark and squawk. I just bark and squawk at people and say, can you open up the doors for me? Can you help me? And 9 times out of 10 they say, yes, we can help you. But there will times I will just stand there, not on purpose, just out of curiosity to see who will open up the door for me. And, if I don't say anything, they won't open any door or do anything for me. They will just walk right past me, and 9 times out of 10 looking down at their iPhone.
That's funny. I recently read about a study that was done, and I can't remember the study. I wish I had it with me, but it was about the seminary students, and they would have someone that was homeless that needed help, and he was like laying on the ground, and they would have these seminary students walking, and what the study showed was these seminary students who are morally obedient, they were stopping, and then some of them were just walking over him. And what the correlation was is time. So if they were late to something or needed to be somewhere, they would kind of disregard that person laying on the ground or needing help or anything like that. But those that weren't pressed for time actually stopped and helped. I thought that was a really interesting study, and I wish I had it, and I'll look back at it and put it in the show notes. But yeah, that can definitely be a stressful time. But you seem like a very outgoing person, and it's probably a good way to meet new people. So
yeah, it is. But I have the bull in the china shop attitude, and one of the questions was, what do you want to, one of the questions to me was, what do you want to get rid of, or what's one of your bad habits you want to get rid of? And I said, my bull with a giant shove attitude, but at the same time, I just want to temper that down just a little bit, just so people can hear the advocacy, but still not be shocked by the bull with a China shop attitude.
yeah, and just like with any habit, once you become aware of it, it starts to dissipate.
Yeah.
So yeah. So first or second part to that question, what prompted you to write this book?
I had two stop and smell the roses moments in my life. The first one was losing my capability to walk in 2006. And I started visualizing, believe it or not, butterflies of wisdom walking up and down a hospital hallway at PT, trying to gain some use of my legs back. And ever since then, I have been slowly but surely gaining use of my legs back. I do have a small spinal cord injury, but that's because they did so much with my spine, and they let my spine go dead for 20 minutes, which means you're paralyzed for 20 minutes. And so even though they had electrodes hooked up to my spine, they still let my spine go dead for 20 minutes. And so I got nerve damage from that, quickly discovered that one as I was walking down a set of stairs on the East Coast at my grandmother's house, and realized that my leg wasn't bending all the way. And I'm thinking, oh, this is great. You guys don't tell me that I actually have nerve damage. So ever since then, now 11 years later, I've finally gotten rid of the nerve damage, and we'll get to how in a minute. But, what prompted me to write the book, literally, is my second stop and smell the roses moment. My second stop and smell the roses moment was losing my biological mom to meningitis / a brain aneurysm. And again, medical malpractice came into play with that one. And so, and I asked my mom in medically induced coma, she being in medically induced coma, I said, can I write I Come a Win at the time? And she said, yes, as long as you do it gracefully, not spill too many family secrets. So that's how I did it. And it took me a year to write I Come a Win. I was given the luxury of attending a leadership workshop, not necessarily on how to deal with your disability, but live your dreams. And one of my dreams in front of 11 people at the time was to write a book. Well, when they wrote that on the big piece of butcher paper, those 11 people thought I was nuts because this was only 5 months after my mom died, and they thought I was about to lose my mind. But when it came around that I was actually doing this, when the reunion of this leadership program happened, I was able to say, look, you guys, my book is now in the editing process.
Okay, so I am fascinated by people that can write a book just because of the discipline it takes. You said it took you a year. What was the process of what it was your writing process? Like, do you write every day? Do you block that time every day? Do you go somewhere?
I block that time every day, and I also use Siri, and I also use a timer on my iPhone, and so I block that time. So I put it on my schedule, and so I'm actually working on another book. This is my 8th book that I'm working on. I have 8 books under my name. And so this is not my first time publishing a book, self-publishing a book. And so I block out that time. I take the time I need. And Siri's gotten better over the years. For those of you on the PC side, you guys have Dragon Naturally Speaking.
You talked about self-publishing a book, and it is available on Amazon and a bunch of other avenues.
Yes.
And like I said, I'm in awe of people that write books just because of the discipline it takes. And you took it one step further and you self-published. So why did you self-publish, and how difficult was it?
Well, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's easy because of the system I use, which is CreateSpace. CreateSpace is owned by Amazon. And so all you have to do is upload a Microsoft Word document, essentially, and have it professionally edited before you do. And then you can upload a cover. You can have a cover design or design one yourself in Cover Creator, and then you have a book. And then it automatically publishes on Amazon. It's in expanded distribution, and yeah, all this is free.
So the process is pretty simple from what you say, but like you said, it's not as easy as it sounds. So let's say you were teaching a class on how to self-publish. What would be 3 things that your students would need to know and you would teach them?
Well, number 1 would start by planning book out on your iPhone. I know that Scrivener has an iPhone app. I know that Microsoft's Word has an iPhone app. Apple's Pages has an iPhone app. So there's Microsoft's Word documents on your iPhone. So my number 1 piece of advice would start planning the book, pick a good editor, pick a good cover designer, and then upload the process and then upload the book.
Okay, so let's say we already have the book on Microsoft Word. It's ready to go. It's been edited, and it's got a cool, awesome book cover. What would be the 3 things they would need to know to self-publish?
All you would need to know is you would need to go to createspace.com and get an account, and then they'll guide you through the process. CreateSpace they have a expedited process or a beginner process, and you click on beginner, and they say cover, they say interior, they say exterior, what do you want the cover to look like? And they require a JPEG or PNG image for the cover, and then they require a PDF for the interior, and that's all you can do. And basically, you can open previews on your Mac or your PC and make it a PDF.
Okay, so once you get all that done through createspace.com, then is the next process to go to Amazon and upload it?
The CreateSpace will do that for you. You don't need to touch Amazon.
And is CreateSpace a free application, or is that
yes.
Oh, that's great.
CreateSpace is a free application. It's owned by Amazon, so that's why they use Amazon, because you can find anything on Amazon. You could find my book to a New York Times bestselling author, so that's why a lot of independent authors use CreateSpace.
Hey there. Sorry to interrupt this episode, but this is a quick message from me. Subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe. Also, if these episodes are bringing any value to your life, please leave a quick 5-star review and put a question in there I could answer on the show or ask the next guest. Okay, back to the show. Oh wait, one more thing. The music you're listening to is from one of my former students. Leobardo, you're the man. Back to the show. You have this disability, but you don't let it stop you from living a fruitful and adventurous life. So talk about the Kona Ironman that you did.
Lovely.
And first, for those that might not know what an Ironman is, could you kind of describe what it is?
Ironman is a triathlon. It's a swim, bike, and run. I swim to begin with, bike second, run third. And the reason why the Kona Ironman is so difficult is because of where it's placed. And so I was able, with a teammate, to do the swim bike portion. I did not do the run because the bike portion got a little too difficult, and we got pulled out of the Ironman. We got pulled out. We missed the run part, I believe, by 1 hour, and we got pulled out by the run, other than run part, by the Kona Ironman, because the way my bike was set up, I don't know why my teammate did this, but she had me not helping with the bike. And I believe if I was able to help with the bike portion, I believe that I would be sitting here talking to you as Ironman champion.
Okay, so is this your first triathlon that you've done?
I did 3 triathlons in the year I was doing it. Actually 4 triathlons in the year I was doing it. And talk about giving up your job. Now I see why triathletes are so focused. They're so focused on winning the races, John, that it's not even funny. They're so focused on winning the next level and getting the next sponsorship that it's not even funny. I mean, my teammate with most triathletes got so self-centered that I gave it up. I retired after 1 year. I wish I never retired, but I had to give it up. My most triathletes are so self-centered that it's not even funny. I mean, the professional ones don't even want to talk to you unless you have a good standing in the race.
Wow, that's not good. That's interesting that happens. And yeah, I think in order to, and I'm not sure about the distances. I know that the run is 26 miles. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then
yes.
you bike 100 miles?
Yeah.
And then the swim is 2 miles?
2 mile, 2.6 miles, I believe. But it's normally swim, bike, run. It's not bike, run, swim.
Okay. And so you've retired from it, and you said that you have a tough time walking. So I'm assuming the running part for you would have been difficult. Is that correct?
Well, the running part, they would put me in a running wheelchair. If you guys Google Team Hoyt, Hoyt, and if you guys Google Team Hoyt, or you can put this in the show notes, you'll see what Team Hoyt is up to, and they have Ansley's Angels and another one. They have racing chairs for the disabled. I could easily, as a matter of fact, I had Rooster of Ansley's Angels on my podcast. Go back and listen to that episode. And if my schedule works out, I'm going to become a marathon runner again and run with those guys. I would love to be a marathon runner and sports wheelchair design for it.
That is so cool. I had no idea that existed. And why?
Oh, yeah.
And why is it why is it that you do these things? Why try triathlons and marathons? What's the driving force there?
I have a adventurous spirit. I also am the second adaptive snowboarder in the world. And in the world, I adaptively snowboard in the winter. And then I am the first woman in the world, we believe, in the country, at least in the country, walking in an exoskeleton with assistance, but I can do it.
What exactly is that? I have no idea what that is.
Exoskeleton is a robotic device that helps the paralyzed walk. And if you look on Facebook under Bridging Bionics or bridgingbionics.com, you guys will see the exoskeleton in action, and you guys will see me walking in an exoskeleton.
Well, I'm looking up on Facebook right now, and that is pretty neat.
Yeah.
Bridging Bionics Foundation, is that what that is?
Bridging Bionics Foundation, yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, so kind of moving away from some of those questions, what do you wish you were better at? This could be life or the classroom or both.
I wish I was better at managing the kids, so I don't rely on my lead teacher as much. My poor lead teacher, she puts up with me and they put up with me, but I wish I was better at managing the kids. In life, I wish I was better at walking, but I think they go hand in hand because that's why I gave up preschool teaching, John, because I couldn't do it. I could not do it. I was getting physically sick as a week, and because if you ever taught preschool, you would know this, that preschoolers pick up every single thing on the planet and then hug you. And so you have every single germ coming into your system. And with my weakened immune system, I'm like, when I knew my change was happening in January of 2017, and I'm like, good. I said to my colleague when she goes, I'm leaving I'm moving back to Oklahoma from Aspen, Colorado. I'm like, good, get out of here. I need to get out of here. I just needed my escape plan. And so this was my escape plan. I mean, I'm like, good. You leave, I leave. So it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I teach sixth graders, and them sixth graders and preschool age children are basically the same thing. They have the same toddler mentality. They're not at they're not at that teenage age yet, and they're not necessarily a elementary school age anymore. They're kind of in between and trying to figure it out. So I completely understand that mentality. So you've given us some great stuff today, and we're going to end with some rapid fire questions. And these questions are really to get to know you and what your interests are. So first question is, what is a purchase under $100 that has had a positive impact on your life?
I would say, can I be biased now? I would say my Libsyn account for $30 that is the best investment I have ever spent on my life, and just sharing my story and getting the feedback from my story. So yes, I would say my podcast in hosting.
And why is that such a great purchase for you?
Why is that? Because I just I get to sell my books and interview people like you, and I get interviews on my podcast. I accept interviews on my podcast. So when people say, I want to interview you, you'll hear me say yes. Yes, I'll accept the interview. I think everyone should try a podcast at least once.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I love it. How about a smartphone app that you love at the moment right now?
Google Docs. Because what Google Docs does is, if I'm writing my book on the iPad, Google Docs will magically send it up to the Google Doc cloud, and it will appear on my iPhone. So when I'm too lazy to pull the iPad over, I can just write the documents on my phone, or write the documents on my iPad.
Yes, I love Google Docs. I love and hate Google Docs. I mean, there's some things about it that frustrate me, just because some of the editing that you can do
yes,
because it is internet based.
Yes,
but
we've learned this one the hard way, John, and I won't get into that, but Google Docs will improve, and but Microsoft Word has a pretty good interface too. But I love Google Docs because so many people use Gmail. It's not even funny.
Right. How about a book or books you would gift to someone?
Well, my book would be number one, and then I would gift to someone. Probably A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson, just because that took a lot of courage, and probably the last time I listened to it was a long time ago, and so I would probably give my book A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson.
All right, how about maybe a couple podcast recommendations?
My favorite podcast, my new favorite podcast, is Always a Lesson, and The Teacher's Tunnel, and Dreams in Drive, by Rena Campbell, and that one is phenomenal. And Rena is a fantastic podcast host. So I'm a podcast junkie, so I, of course, had to give Slay, and I had to throw The Teacher's Tunnel in there just for the heck of it.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. How about a favorite quote?
A favorite quote is by Maya Angelou, and the quote goes, "People will forget what you say, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And the reason why I say that is because me having a disability, people could tune me out easily, but somehow they're fascinated by my story. Somehow they're fascinated by my story, and they keep listening to me and keep progress updates on me. I mean, my fans have basically gone through hell and back with me. I mean, in March of 2017, I got another health scare. That health scare has since been resolved, thank God. But my fans were just saying to me, look, if you need to stop this podcast and take care of yourself, we understand. So, I thought that people were going to tune me out. Turns out that people seem to like me and love me.
Yeah, and you do have a great story, and you're lively and upbeat, and you don't let your disability own who you are. So I think that's a great message. And there is a book that really opened my eyes to people with disabilities, and it's called Out of My Mind by Sharon Draper. And I'm not sure if you're aware of that book. It is a book I suggest. It is.
I am.
Yeah, and it's young adult fiction, and that is probably one of my all-time favorite books. And if you haven't read it, it's a must, not only for you, but for your children, for your students. So check that book out as well as Wynn's book, I Win. Okay, how about theme music if walking into a classroom or a room? What would be your theme music in the background?
If they would figure this one out. Now, this one is going to surprise you. This one is been my theme music for 30 years. And Bob Marley, Get Up, Stand Up. That would be my theme music right there. And if someone would play that for me, I would be completely tickled pink. But no one has ever said that to me yet. And I think I'm going to steal that question to ask on my podcast, and of course give you credit, because when you think about theme music, that is a whole different podcast story in itself.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say steal questions, because I pretty much have stolen all my questions from different podcast hosts. So here's one that I stole from Tim Ferriss, and this one is, if you had one word or a couple words or a few words or a bunch of words, and you could put it on a billboard, what would it be?
I would say winning and determined.
Winning and determined. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what is one question you wish I would have asked you that I didn't?
What is going to be your biggest challenge with your career transition?
All right. What is it?
It's going to be a whole different level of psychological thinking. I'm so stuck in the preschool mode of talking about the movies Cars and talking about Elsa from Frozen that I think third graders are going to be more on my level than than preschool was, because there were points when I wanted to say, would you please knock it off in talking about Cars and talking about Elsa from Frozen. That's all they wanted to talk about. And I would try and bring it over to Sesame Street. Of course, they would look at me like I'm crazy because they don't know about Sesame Street and they don't know about my generation. They know about this generation, but this generation drove me nuts because every single time they wanted to talk about Frozen. And so I'm happy I'm out of that stage. I'm happy that I can at least have semi-adult conversations with the kids.
All right, Wynn. Well, you've been a treat today. I really thank you for being on. And any places people can find you on the interweb?
Sure. Just if you go over to butterfliesofwisdom.weebly.com, you can find me there. All my information is in the show notes, including my website. And yeah, send me feedback about the podcast, about what I can be doing better, what you like about it, and positive feedback or negative feedback. It doesn't have to be all positive. And so, and please go look up my my books on Amazon under Win Kelly, Kelly, Charles, Charles. They should all be under there. And yeah.
That ends our chat with Win Kelly Charles. She is truly an inspiration to take action and be our best, no matter what's holding us back. If you catch yourself complaining, think back on this episode and understand that complaining gets us nowhere. Have compassion and be kind. Also, hold a door open for someone today and think to yourself that they have a story to tell, just like you. We are all connected. Everything Win shared can be found in our show notes, so check those out at teachertunnel.com and click on the show notes tab. Thanks to our sponsor and fellow teacher, AprilMassPhotography.com. In a world full of pictures, April captures the moments worth writing about and reliving. To subscribe to Teacher Tunnel, go to Apple Podcast or whichever app catcher you enjoy using and hit the subscribe button, or check out the Teacher Tunnel website, teachertunnel.com. Also, would you like to receive a short email from me every Thursday with 3 takeaways I've had for the week? It's called 3-Thursday, 3 dashes that contain information squeezed from previous guests, podcast episodes I've come across, books I'm reading or listening to, apps or videos, and anything else that I find that brings value to my life and others. Just a place to record the things that are helping me in hopes to help others and build a community around it. If you're interested, go to teachertunnel.com and enter your first name and email, and you will receive your first 3-Thursday in your inbox on that day or the following Thursday. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Teacher Tunnel. I like to put a daily quote on those pages, something that inspires me for the day and hopefully others. Same goes for Facebook. Just search Teacher Tunnel. Thanks for listening, and to end, I will leave with a quote by Muhammad Ali. Quote, "Don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion." End quote. Have a great day.